Okay.
Yes.
That's live for me, so.
So this was this, is it CDC?
The CRC, yeah.
CRC.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
It was like, it kind of hurt my mind. I'm not gonna lie, just because we heard one thing that was just so against it, and then when I was reading it, I was like, this really doesn't sound terrible. And then we would watch the other videos, and it'd be like, okay, well, now what language are they using? It was kind of mind-boggling to me how we can kind of just be deceived in that way. And I feel like it just like all great deceivers, it comes from a place of truth and goodness, but it's just been skewed in a way where it could really do some harm. And so I thought that was interesting.
I remember hearing years ago about how some extremists wanted to make it so that kids had this say in family plans. So they would be like, if their parents were going to move, if say mom or dad got a job 3 states away, so the family was moving, the kids could choose to legally stay and not move. Things, and I was like, that's ridiculous. That is insane. Like, are you kidding me? But like pretty much almost 100% of what it said in the C
CRC. Yeah.
like almost everything it said's like, yeah, but because it didn't protect from extremism, in the same mark, that's why it's like the thing that was like, don't do it, because it means your kids could literally get government officials involved for everything they disagree with. But it's at the same time, most of that kind of can happen now. The government can jump in and say you're abusing your child at any point. That already exists. So I don't know really how different it is in reality to what we already do here. I think we're just scared of it being more extreme, but I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to talk to someone from those other countries and see how it's affected them, and the different policies that are made there and different things that might be affected by it. I don't know. I think I work with DCFS a lot, and I've had some experience where we we had a family member who was adopted, and she had like, I can't remember what it's called. It's when the adoptive child doesn't attach to the family, and so she started being very violent towards our family. And so there was a case that started getting built, and it takes a while. I know, at least from that experience, that it's not like an immediate thing where like the cops come in and she's emancipated or whatever. But it took a lot. Like it took like a whole case of these different events happening, and then and she's still legally their child. She just lives in like a home now for people with behaviors. And so I don't know. I just think it's very different in that sense where maybe it's a lot easier to get something done just because you say, my parents are going against my rights or whatever. Whereas here you have to really build that case and really have something going towards that. I was thinking about that while we were doing all the class stuff this week.
That makes sense. And I was thinking a lot of the rights it gives the children, right to be raised by both parents, right to be raised in the home by the family, by the parents, right to reunification with family, which are things CPS, like, because that's what I want to go into, is actually CPS, to be a child protective service worker. And the whole goal is to keep them with the family if it can be safe. If it's not safe, you have to remove them. But the goal is still to put them back with the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I did because I feel like a lot of the fear that comes with it is it's all about the government taking control of the family and determining everything, which I totally can get behind some of those concerns. Look at how people are now having the police called on them for child neglect when their kids are playing across the street at the park when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not allowed to be kids and have any kind of freedom, or the parents are neglectful. You know, so I do get that there is fear of kind of that taking charge, but I also think I don't know, maybe that is why it'd be good to talk to every other countries that's implementing it, and we're just the only one that's not, to see if they really are finding they have no control. And I think a lot of it is the fear of it takes power away from the state and gives it to the federal government, and it takes power from our government and hands it to international organization. And I think people are really scared of letting go of any control or any power because they lose control and power over a situation, which I do understand that too.
I think it's interesting that the UN has taken control of something like that, because in my mind, I feel like the family's such a smaller ticket. I don't know. I mean, it's large, but it's also like it differs from culture to culture. And so I thought it made more sense that we haven't become a part of it, just because I feel like what happens in the US isn't exactly going to happen in Egypt, like, you know, different things like that. So I think we're okay where we are. But yeah, I would love to talk to someone from a different area and see what they think about it.
Didn't it also talk about like every country changing it a little to apply their culture?
I don't remember that. Maybe.
I feel like it said
like
that in like
they would
the
have
first summary, but yeah, because there's no way, and they're all so different.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I feel like I talk a lot.
No, I do too.
Well, I would like to make a point on something like you guys said a long time ago. One of you said, I don't remember who, but one of you were talking about how like things sound good, but they really are bad, and it just reminded me of the talk from I don't remember her name, but the video that we had to watch. She said that President Spencer W. Kimball said that our opposition uses tools and uses logic to confuse and rationalizations to destroy, and he shades meanings, and he'll open doors at a time, and he leads from the purest white through all the shades of gray to the darkest black. So I don't know. I like that because it really painted a picture of how things could sound good and they sound like they could influence our culture or influence how we live in a good way, but really it's like the logic is confusing, and it makes us think that bad things really are good, or I don't know if that made any sense.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling. I was like, whoa. This is that's why I felt confused a lot of the time while doing the homework.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just like listening to you guys. I feel like you guys know everything. I think just to go on like what Emily said, kind of just it really is the littlest things. I think how you said it goes from like white to gray to the darkest black. If you think about people who like go inactive, or they don't go 0 to 60 like overnight, it kind of is like gradual things here and there. You justify something here and there, and then just slowly gets bigger and worse.
That's true. And at the same time, it makes sense that we need some kind of program in place. Like, what do you guys think of the UNICEF video that showed like child marriage and labor and all of the horrible stuff?
Yeah. I think I guess that's why there's the positives to it, is that we need to take more responsibility as a world community for those countries that do need the help, and socially need to kind of get on that same page with families. But I think there's got to be a lot of different influences and different cultural changes even, that I don't know how we would kind of submerge that in their culture of way of living. But yeah, I totally understand its place. But it's interesting how that one policy, or the one, they called it treaties, right? If it's a treaty, then it affects all of the world's policies and different things like that. So I just thought that was interesting. Like, you can't just have one huge umbrella for the whole world, because it's not going to fit everyone underneath it, you know? So I don't know. It's hard. But I guess this is all very new. Like, family studies hasn't been a very big thing, and it's just barely kind of gaining popular. Well, I don't even know if it's popular, but just kind of getting the recognition finally that it needs in education and different things like that. So I think we're going to be making some way in the world in advocacy, and really hopefully making a difference.
That's true. And it is, because we do have laws in place to protect against those things, even if we aren't using the CRC directly. We have laws against child labor in America. We have, and so we've implemented a lot of the things we do feel like we need to protect us. Though I did like it. It said something along the ways of there are reports, and people like report on how their state is what like the different countries are called, I guess, how they're doing, and then they give suggestions on where to improve, but they have no authority to enforce those suggested changes. Or so I did like that. I like that there are suggestions, but not absolute power or anything like that. Yeah, we don't have much of the child marriage or child bride, or I think the only real one we really have a problem with is there is a lot of sex trade in America still. That involves children. I think that's still huge, but that's probably our last really big one we have to figure out as a country for the children.
What are your guys' thoughts on how, I looked it up, her name is Kelly Houghton. What are your thoughts on how she talked about the different approaches according to like the Bronfenbrenner model?
I think you could really see in her presentation how those things are really connected and interrelated. I kind of thought of the thought of the butterfly effect, and how one little move from the butterfly can affect the whole world, basically. And so, I mean, I feel like we as humans, we react to the environments around us. So it just makes sense that as those things around us are happening, that it's going to start just like kind of sectioning in to that one person. and you're going to build your thoughts and your opinions and different things on it. And that's the world we live in. So
I didn't get very far on that specifically, so that's why I'm being quiet about in this part.
That was like the one thing I focused on was like her video. So
so what do you think then, Emily?
I thought it sounded like she had a lot more courage than I do in standing up for rights and things like that. That's why I'm excited that I'm in this class, because I tend to just take a step back and let people talk about serious issues and do things themselves. But she gave examples of like a bad video she saw walking into Costa Vida. So she emailed the company and they're like, oh, sorry, yeah, we'll take care of that. But instead, if I went in to Costa Vida and saw something like that, I'd have been offended, but it would have never crossed my mind to do something about it. And all the other people that are being affected because of this like pornographic video. So I feel like she's a cool woman, that brave, and yeah, has more guts than I do.
She's with United Families, right? If I remember right. Isn't that one of the places that you can do an internship with?
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like I've seen it. That'd be interesting to do. Yeah.
Are you a marriage and family major?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think about other parts of this week's lesson?
Let's see. There's some more questions. Let me see if I can pull them up really fast. Okay. Okay. I mean, it sounds like we're having some trouble with the system. So, like, understanding what it looks like and understanding it. But from what you guys have read, what system or level do you personally feel would be the most difficult to advocate, and why?
So kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, I think it would be hardest to advocate for the macro system, because that is that's large scale. It's like policies and laws, and you would really have to, like, an advocate would have to go out and talk to like Congress people and like it.
You would have to be like involved.
Yeah. So I think that would be, for me, the most difficult to do.
Yeah, I agree completely. Unless you're going into like politics or something like that. Like, I don't know how many of us are going to get a chance to do that. But yeah, that's interesting.
So in the social work program, there's 3 practice classes: practice 1, practice 2, practice 3. And they're really fun, actually. But the first one, it's micro level, where it's all one-on-one. And we learn how to do like one-on-one interviews and like how to be kind of a therapist, you know? And the practice number 2 was groups. We learned how to be group therapists, you know? And number 3 was macro, and it was community and how to advocate at a macro level. And it was really cool. And we had a semester-long project, and it was just about the only thing we did that semester for that class was we had to pick a macro issue, something in a community that was a problem, and we had to actually contact the people in the community and work with them to change it and fix it. And that was like, we were actually doing it. We weren't calling the mayor and saying, theoretically, what would you say to this? We were saying, we have an idea. Who do we need to talk to get it started? And we would actually do those things. And it was awesome.
That's incredible.
And overwhelming and terrifying and really, really cool. Talking, you know, the topic I wanted to go on was sexual assault on campus at BYU Idaho. Like we chose that, you know, because it happens all the time in our Mormon culture. We don't talk about it, and all this stuff happens, which perpetuates the problem in every way. And trying to come up with a way to actually create awareness of the problem and to create a safe place for people who have been victims of sexual assault at one point while being a student at BYUI, you know. And it was really, really cool and fun. And it kind of made me think, is it easier or harder to get people invested in something that's macro? You know, if you pick a macro topic, do you end up with something like the Women's March that was a huge event because so many people were like, yeah, because I can connect to this and I can relate to this and I can relate to this? Or is that kind of micro? And I don't know. I don't know what's easier and what people maybe dismiss more or what they connect more to. I can see how, like, policy-wise, it's going to be a lot harder to change macro because we have to be in a position where we can. But do we
I
maybe?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like, do we forget about the micro? Like, do we get so focused on women's rights that we forget to question how we feel about abortion in general first, or you know, like do we forget to fight for certain things because we're overwhelmed by so many broad spectrum issues, or what?
Well, and on the macro level, I think with what you're saying, it's a lot easier for us as a people in a community to get involved and to kind of jump on the bandwagon with everyone else, because once we get those numbers, then it doesn't feel like you're making a huge difference with those numbers, but it's not as scary as being the bold one, you know, that kind of situation. But I think being someone who would be in a courthouse or doing something kind of alone, making a stance. I think of like a lot of civil rights people, like Rosa Parks. She did something alone and made a huge stand, and different things like that. I think it has that macro effect, but yeah, it's very situational. That's kind of mind-boggling.
Doing a scary thing is in a small community, you know, and seeing if that affects, like, a lot of people, their response to a lot of the protest movements, like, what if you put that energy towards helping with something in your actual in your personal community, instead of, you know, grabbing a bus or a plane ticket to DC and standing with a group of people. And it's true, that one would affect things so much more if everyone did that. But it's hard for us to see what difference is made when there's not, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people standing together. We can see that, and it's like, oh, it's fine, look how many people agree. But when we're not seeing the effects of it because it's micro level, it's almost discouraging.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm sorry if that was a huge tangent.
No, it was a good thought. A good tangent. Okay, so the last question says, what system or level do you personally feel is the most important to advocate, and why?
Ooh. The most important level?
For me, I'd say micro, because in our personal families, that's what makes us who we are, is our personal experiences and our personal family unions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think micro, 'cause that's more day-to-day life that affects them, you know, right at the source.
And the micro is what controls the macro.
Yeah. They all kind of affect each other, as we've been talking about. So
What's your personal answer?
Me?
Yeah.
I would say micro as well, just because, I mean, I don't have a family of my own yet, but I think in my family, I can still advocate for the family by making sure to be a good example and a good influence to my sisters and siblings all around, and also helping with different tasks that might or that could help influence the family for good. And I don't know. I think right now, in my 20s and I'm single phase, I think it'd be fun to do more of the macro stuff and kind of get more involved in the community and different things like that. But yeah, I think the micro is super important, and I think being able to kind of shape those minds at a young age is going to be the most important thing. So mothers are the most important, is what I'm saying.
I
I agree.
love that.
A mother has a huge influence on their children's lives.
So we actually got 25 minutes.
Good.
About halfway through, I was like, wait. I was worried.
Does someone want to summarize then?
Micro is more important. Macro is less intimidating.
Sounds great.
I feel like, what else did we talk about? Oh my gosh.
The CRC is the other big thing.
Yeah,
The CRC, we talked about a lot about how that the different policies can be kind of deceiving, and it comes from what you would think is a really good place, but it's definitely got a hidden agenda in some aspects, and then we just kind of related it to the different levels from I can't ever say the name. Broth and thank you, Emily. But yeah, so and that really it starts in the home with your family, and you should just try to do your best to advocate there. And if you can, use your voice. Amen.
Amen. I like it.
Thank you.
I don't think we said our names at the beginning. Do we still need to do that?
Yeah, I realized. I totally forgot. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm Emily Garver.
I'm Gabby Rico.
I'm Alex Scannell Brady.
and I am Kayla Abnell.
All right. Awesome, ladies. You have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thanks, Emily, for putting it together today.
No problem. Sorry,
Yes,
it's
thank
kind of
you.
messed up.
No worries.
No, you're good.
Bye.
Bye.